All right, we made it. This is part 4 of this free training series. And by the way, I'm Erin Trafford, Executive Content Strategist, and I am here to make content feel good, be easy for you, and most importantly, have your content strategy and your marketing plan actually hook into your business development. The reason we are here, the reason you are on video 4 of 4 is because you probably have tried a bunch of other things. You are disillusioned by content gurus. You are disillusioned by this whole, it can be easy, by the 6-figure launch without trying, by the just be consistent and the clients will come. All of those things taken on their own are not true. You need to look at this picture holistically. And so that's really what I'm hoping you have seen over the course of the last 3 videos. And then we're going to round things out with this final video. So I have actually redone my beautiful whiteboard here. In the last video, number 3, if you are on Instagram, check my Reels tab. You can see all 4. They have the same caption cover. And if you are on YouTube, they're also similarly all on my YouTube feed. So you make sure you come in on video 1. But if you have watched all the others, you'll know that in the last video, we addressed how to decide where to tell your story, where to put your content. We picked the channels and I gave you some data and information that should help you decide. Okay, I can't decide for you. Whether I am working with you one-on-one in a group, you're at a live event, I can help you come to a decision about where you want to show up, but I can't decide for you. So I gave you some information so you had a lay of the land. You can start to lean into what feels good for you. So here's where we are going to focus this video, and this part of the training is on the story. And if I can digress, my company, my consulting company is called Erin Trafford Story and Strategy. My podcasting network is called Story Studio Network. Always leading with the story. It is crucial. If you are out there just spewing tips and tricks and educating your audience, I see the irony because that's what I'm doing right now, your content is going to fall flat. You are also going to run out of things to say. Okay? You're going to run out of things to say. So I want you to focus on your story. And the reason we're going to go here in this final training is because you are going to pick an owned platform and grow it. And when you do that, you want to make sure that the foundation of that platform is what I call your always true stories. Okay? Now, here is where a lot of business owners and people get hung up. My clients get hung up on this all the time. Is they think that when we say, I'm going to pick a new marker because that green isn't really working for me. Okay. When I ask them, well, what are your always true stories? They focus on themselves. Well, I'm good at this. I like this. I can teach this. Here's what I want people to know. Hands up. Give me a like. Give me a share. Drop a comment if you have heard yourself say that before. If you've been in a planning session and you're like, I want people to know this. Well, stop. Take a beat. And let's flip that telescope around, because your always true stories are 100% about your audience. Let's go all the way back to video number 1. Remember when we're talking about creating market demand? Remember when we're talking about your content being a bridge when you are finding and defining your content strategy? It's because it's a bridge from you to what they need and expect from you. So your always true stories, the foundation of the stories you are telling on these strategic platforms, needs to be about them. It has to be focused on your audience. Once you've gotten through that, are you able to do more personal stuff? Are you able to kind of take the bulls by the horn and even things out? Absolutely. I am not going to tell you to never talk about yourself. You are your secret sauce. But when it comes to your strategy and building your foundations, These always true stories need to be from the lens of your audience. And that's how we produce them at Story Studio Network. That's how we create our podcast strategies at Story Studio Network. That is how I guide my clients to build content strategies that last and become assets. It's because the audience is always the most important at this point of your strategy. So what do you actually say that allows yourself to do this from an audience first perspective? Now, you're gonna have to personalize this, okay? This is like broad strokes. And this is also not in order of importance. But here are some always true stories. I recommend you have at least 5 of them. At least 5, maybe more, okay? So your always true story is going to be number 1. What does your audience, and I'm just going to say odd because I clearly ran out of space. What does your audience value about, here's just some ideas, your industry, your solution, and you? Okay? There's a really great podcast episode. You can really dig in with that. This is always going to be true because I'm going to guess even if you pivot your offers, even if you change the way your business runs, if you change your business model, this is going to be true, okay? So what does your audience value about your industry, solution, and you? The next always true story that I love, and remember, this is about perspective. This is about doing it from the audience's perspective, is what do they believe? Okay? What do they believe? Okay? Now, you've heard this before. People say bust myths. Go out on Instagram and bust a myth. That's this. Let's go deeper. Let's go deeper than just busting a myth. Okay? What do they believe about your industry? But the next myth I want you to bust is, what does the industry do that you're in? I'm using industry. That you believe is a myth or needs to change. Okay? This is good. This is likely not going to change over time. Here I am saying I think that people aren't going deep enough with their content strategies. That's not going to change, whether I'm talking about blogging, podcasting, whatever. It's not going to change. I'm going to create content around this, all right? Then I want you to have an always true story. This one is a great suggestion, and it's so simple that people get hung up on it. And this one is, I need a better eraser, guys. This one is, what is the most common question you get? Okay, so what is the most common question you get? And I want you to create a piece of content around that. Now, here's where you're going to likely get hung up on this, is that when I say that, usually in my group sessions, somebody will say, well, the most common question I get is, how do I get started? No. You really need to listen for what is the question behind the question. So if somebody says, how do I get started with podcasting, for example, I'm going to ask follow-up questions, or I'm really going to be strategic and think, they're not actually asking how to get started. They're wondering about the technical. They're wondering about the time commitment. They're wondering about the cost and investment. They're wondering if they can do this on their own. They're wondering what success looks like. They're wondering how many downloads they need. That's what is behind the question. So when you see a prompt that says, answer the most common question that you get, and you think, oh, the most common question I get is how to work with me, so I'm just going to send them to my services page, you're missing a huge opportunity to outline a multitude of always true stories that are going to actually build up all the platforms that you have identified here. You will likely have content for literally days, weeks, and months. if you dig into just this question. Now, there are a bunch more always true stories that we could get into, and you know, you can really have fun depending on how you're going to tell them. Are you going to do it in a blog post? Are you going to keyword them? Do you want to do them in a podcast format? Are you going to take a podcast and turn it into a blog post? Like, there's a bunch of stuff that we can do. My point is, your story foundation needs to be about your audience, and it needs to be, the other word we hear is evergreen to a certain extent. Now, that does not mean throw a blog post out into the ether and expect it to do the work for you. You still have to add fuel to this fire through your strategy. You still need to be activating your megaphone with your pillars and your supports that we talked about in the last video. But fundamentally, this, if you just focus on this and these kinds of things for 90 days, you will see a remarkable improvement in the way you're approaching your content, in the way your content is performing, and the overall health of your content strategy. And this, my friends, concludes our 4-part series on the content growth framework. If you love this, drop me a DM, get in touch. I've got lots of new stuff coming down the pike, including a relaunch of my podcast, some new membership perks, lots of fun things on the go. And we're also starting to host some in real life events as of fall 2022. So thank you for indulging me. I hope this was helpful. Make sure to like and share and hit the notification bell. And I will see you on the gram or on the YouTubes, possibly on my email list. Ciao.